Folks, it's Nate. Thanks for joining me once again as we look to the horizon. Back here with your weekly writing vlog, and I have a pretty short report for you today. I am probably a page and a half away from finishing the epilogue to Fire and Gold, and I am looking forward to that. It's was, as I said last week, a little bit of a chore to get back into Roy's headspace after being out of it for so long, and I this whole story was more difficult to write than any of the other Roy Harper stories I have written so far. In part because it did involve in a lot of getting into, weird patterns of thought, a lot of stretching of those creative muscles, and trying to find good ways to tell a story in a way that is realistic, gripping, and engaging, but is not prurient or tawdry, if you will. Certainly there are a lot of subjects that you can address in fiction in mature ways that deal with the world as it is, instead of being saccharine or sappy, but are still not reveling in the nature of the world we live in. And I think it was good that I did this writing exercise to try and balance that. That said, I don't think this is one of the best stories I've ever written. Certainly not from a character work perspective. I think in setups and plot payoffs and emotional suspense, it does pretty well. But I don't think any of the characters I've written here are terribly groundbreaking. And maybe that's not the greatest, but I and this is a problem I have had. I know writing characters who wind up dead by the end of the story. I had a hard time getting invested in a lot of them because I didn't like them very much, and I knew they were going to be gone by the end of the story. And I don't always have that problem when I write a character with the intention of killing them by the end of the story. The most notable example would be Dexter Lang. No, not Dexter. It, I don't remember what his last name is off the top of my head. I had a character named Dex. Nickname was Dex in the story Schrodinger's book, who I knew pretty early on was going to wind up dead by the end of the story. Um, in my outline, I actually left the idea of Dex dying up in the air for me to decide when I got there. But as I wrote the story more and more, and as the character got more and more developed, probably around chapter 5, I think maybe 6, I was pretty sure that the character was going to die at the climax of the story, because, well, for a number of reasons. But since I had started writing Dexter with the idea that he might live through the whole story, I think I developed him in my head a little bit more. I got a little bit more attached to him, and I think as a result of that, I wrote him better than any of the characters really in Fire and Gold. Larry in Fire and Gold did not really have enough time to develop into much of a character, and that's always the way it is. The first guy to go in a horror movie doesn't get a whole lot of development, and that's fine. I was kind of playing around with the horror movie formulation in Fire and Gold, but I don't know. I think that I developed a lot of skills as a writer. I don't know how good the story is on its own. I would put it, if I were to rank all three of the Roy Harper stories I've written, I think that Fire and Gold would probably be, it would definitely be below Night Train to Hardwick, and I might rank it below Fire Spinner. I might put it even with that. I haven't gone back and reread Fire Spinner in a while. So yeah, I have really mixed feelings about this story, and I think it's a decent attempt to tell a non-traditional story, but I don't know how well I executed on it, really. Part of this is because of the way everything came out in scheduling and working with my test readers. I did not actually get a test reading of Fire and Gold done before I put it up. And having done that with the last two Roy Harper adventures and with Burning Bright, I am really, really missing that feedback. And I think the biggest lesson, the one that will always jump to mind first when I talk about Fire and Gold, is you really need more eyes on a story in order to give you a sense of where it is and how it's functioning. That feedback is just so invaluable, even when it's not the most pleasant thing to hear. You need that feedback. So definitely a lesson there. So after Fire and Gold is done, what am I going to do? Well, I am, as usual, going to take a week off. I was thinking about not taking a week off because it was a shorter story than most, but it's been, there was so much happened in the middle of it. I got COVID and I was sick for a couple of weeks, and then it was rush trying to catch up on a whole bunch of different stuff and catching up on my writing. And I only missed 1 week while I was sick with COVID because I had a buffer built in, an extra chapter that I could post, and now that buffer is gone. So I'm going to take a week off so I can try and rebuild that buffer, and then I'm going to do some essays. I have a lot of thoughts about the way storytelling has been going, and I know that may sound surprising because I think that storytelling in our society as a whole has been on a downward slide now for the last probably 5 or 6 years, like a very pronounced downward slide over the past 5 or 6 years, and it has been, I think, stagnant for probably 20, maybe more. And the prevalence of reboots and sequels in the last couple of decades is partly because of that. So it may seem surprising that there's more to say, but I have more to say. The deeper I get into writing, the more I see and understand and have to say about it, even if I'm probably not saying anything terribly new. There is nothing new under the sun, to be honest. So yeah, I do have a bunch of essays I want to write on the state of storytelling and my thoughts on it and what I am trying to do, and I hope others will try to do, to correct things. I have looked into the superversive movement. I have a lot of thoughts about that, not all of which are flattering, but I think on the whole, the superversive movement is good for storytelling. It's just not, I mean, it's not perfect. What is? What were you expecting? Me to say that something is perfect? I don't think I've said that since I was a teenager when I believed such things could still happen. Look at me, cynical old man here. Yeah, so I have a lot to say there, and we will probably have 2 months of essays or so before I come back and I begin to present you with the Gospel According to Earth, the final book in the series that began with Schrodinger's book, which I mentioned earlier. So there's that. Definitely tune into that because I think it's going to be something special. I think when I'm done with that, I will be able to look at the Triad World novels and say, that's my trilogy. That is the 3-book story arc that I feel really good about. And then I will move on to doing other weird novella experimental projects and probably never write a full-length novel again. We'll see. I have been writing short stories and novellas for quite a bit in the last few years, and I've really enjoyed it. So I think maybe with the benefits of internet distribution and some of the things you can do with that, that may be the direction I push from here on out. I may wind up doing, well, more on that as we get closer to the release of Burning Bright. Anyways, that's all I've got for you today. Let me know what you thought down in the comments below. There's a like button and a subscribe button there. You can use those as you see fit, and I will talk to you later.